Hello, I'm Tom Selston, submitting my entry from AKS School for the 2025 Classical Society competition. The question I'm answering is, which ancient myth fascinates you the most and why? The myth I've chosen is of Scylla and Charybdis. Why did I choose this myth? I didn't choose this myth just because it has some cool monsters in it. At least not entirely. I believe that this is a fascinating tale, combining philosophy and heroism. And I hope by the end I'll have convinced you of that as well. Scylla and Charybdis are two of the most famous monsters from Greek mythology, who formed an unexpected alliance to prey upon unwary sailors. Charybdis is a mysterious sea monster capable of summoning terrifying whirlpools 3 times a day, sinking any ship caught in them. And Scylla is commonly described as possessing 12 feet and 6 heads on serpentine necks, capable of plucking unfortunate sailors off of their ships. Both immortal monsters would wait on opposite sides of the narrow Strait of Messina, the narrow sea separating mainland Italy and Sicily, until any sailors dared to traverse it. It would be impossible to avoid the certain death of Charybdis' whirlpools, while not straying within reach of Scylla's jaws, forcing any would-be heroes into an unclear moral dilemma. As in much of Greek and Roman mythology, Scylla has a disputed origin and identity. It is possible she is the daughter of Charybdis. However, it is more commonly stated that Scylla is the daughter of the early sea god Phorcys and his wife Quita. A likely suggestion is that Scylla was the personification of a rocky outcrop which could tear open a ship's hull. Scylla is described as monstrous, but 2 later translations also depict her as a once beautiful water nymph who was transformed by either Amphitrite or Circe out of jealousy. Nextly, who is Charybdis? Charybdis is the older of the 2 monsters, and with a more confusing history. Charybdis is said to be the daughter of the primordial deities Pontus and Gaia, or occasionally Poseidon and Gaia. Certainly, though, as Scylla is a personification of rocky outcrops, which can tear a ship's hull, she is a personification of a massive whirlpool, which caused the daily rise and fall of tides. Charybdis is normally said to have been born monstrous, but as with Scylla, she is later written as a beautiful goddess turned monster. One tale sees her transformed by Zeus for stealing Hercules' castle, or another sees her being transformed by Zeus for helping Poseidon expand his domain at the expense of Zeus's by causing supernatural floods. Charybdis is undoubtedly the more well-known of the pair and has been featured in multiple major action movies, including Percy Jackson, Sea of Monsters. 4 heroes have encountered the fearsome duo across Greek and Roman myth. Easily the most well-known of these stories is of Jason and the Argonauts in their side quest for the Golden Fleece. The Argo was able to traverse the gap unscathed via the aid of Hera, who requested the Nereids guide the Argo safely between both monsters. Shortly after, the former Argonaut Hercules would again meet Scylla, for Scylla had stolen the castle that Hercules himself had taken from Grayon, but she failed to hide her tracks. Hercules quickly tracked her down and slew her in revenge. However, Scylla would live to prey on more unfortunate souls, as it was said her father Phorcys would bring her back to life following the event. Aeneas was another hero briefly mentioned to have passed unscathed, by rowing past both perils as fast as possible. Now, what truly fascinated me with the story of Scylla and Charybdis is the moral dilemma presented. Charybdis is gluttonous and will devour everything that they are able, but Scylla is more cunning. It is famously told that Scylla is content to snatch only 6 sailors from their ships and let the rest pass untroubled, presenting a difficult moral problem. The monsters epitomise the microcosm, the inevitability of difficult choices, a repeated theme throughout Homer's epic poem, the Odyssey. The Odyssey follows the reigning king of Ithaca, Odysseus, in his struggles to return home to his wife and child after the Trojan War. During his voyages, Odysseus finds himself literally and metaphorically between a rock and a hard place in the Messina Strait, and forced to make the heartbreaking decision to bear the weight of ultimate leadership and blame by choosing which peril to steer towards. Desperate to return to his homeland after 10 years, he acts upon the advice of the goddess Circe and sails close to Scylla. He knowingly sacrifices 6 loyal men, reasoning it is wiser to lose 6 men than to risk his and the lives of the entirety of his crew. So, the myth of Scylla and Charybdis is very symbolic. One point in it is the concept of free will, especially in Homer's The Odyssey. Odysseus's confrontation with the monsters is an inevitable part of his journey, as it was foretold by the gods. This puts the reality of his control as a leader into question, but despite this, he must make a choice between the equally perilous paths presented before him, choosing the lesser of 2 evils. This moment really puts Odysseus' status as a leader into question. Throughout the tale, he is shown as a decisive and effective leader, but now he's confronted with a morally ambiguous choice, where even if there are no right answers, the blame will be placed on his shoulders. The unfortunate circumstances of Odysseus' lead led to the coining of the common idiom, caught between a rock and a hard place, where he literally is caught between the Strait of Messina and 2 horrible evils. Scylla and Charybdis ultimately are metaphors for difficult and inevitable choices in life. Scylla and Charybdis are both monstrous personifications of natural forces, the uncontrollable, devastating powers of the sea, and the fear to do what is necessary. For change can only come about because of sacrifice. Despite all these unfair conditions put before them, Odysseus and the bulk of his crew survive, through their resilience and acceptance of necessity, although their survival comes at a dire cost. While the most well-known and popular, Homer's take on the Scylla and Charybdis dilemma is not the only philosophical answer granted. In stories such as Jason and the Argonauts and the Aeneid, it is presented as cowardly to accept fate and suffer losses for the greater good. In these stories, the heroes are rewarded for their daring and both pass unscathed, although it can be said that the Argon only escape peril due to divine will, putting into question the true power of humans and their fate, and whether or not they are the mere tools and toys for higher beings. The Argon passed safely because of the goddess Hera, who willed it to happen purely for her own interests. Another take on this issue comes from a modern and unexpected source. Such was the popularity and effect on Western culture of Homer's original The Odyssey, that it received a musical adaptation. In it, Odysseus is presented as a very different character, and selfishness is a key theme. Odysseus is blamed as a monster for deceiving and sacrificing 6 of his loyal men to Scylla. All his actions are motivated by his desperation to return home, after not seeing his wife and kid for 12 years. So, I have said my piece, but I think there is one more key takeaway from this. I believe this myth is a powerful example of the effect that ancient mythologies had on modern Western culture. For example, the idea of the mysterious sea beast Charybdis has captivated people's imaginations and become a staple for marine horror, appearing on the big screen in Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters. And the modern idiom, caught between a rock and a hard place, developed from the tale of Scylla and Charybdis. So, I hope that I finish this presentation having made an impact on you all and giving you some food for thought. And with that, thank you very much for listening.